What if I told you your morning glass of orange juice isn't as healthy as you think, and that fat-free yogurt for your snack might actually be worse for you than the regular kind? Sounds a bit controversial, doesn't it? But the world of healthy eating is full of traps and misconceptions we fall into every single day. We're convinced to buy products with flashy labels like fitness, eco, or fat-free, but often behind these words there's not real benefit, just clever marketing. In today's video, we're going to do a real deep dive into your kitchen and your mind. We'll uncover 20 of the most common and dangerous food myths that have been preventing us from being truly healthy for years. Get ready to be surprised, because you're probably following some of these rules right now. Tell us in the comments right now, what's the weirdest piece of nutrition advice you've ever believed? We'd love to hear. So where do all these myths come from anyway? And why do we fall for them so easily? It's simple, really. First, nutritional science is constantly evolving. What was considered gospel 30 years ago might be completely debunked today. Think about how butter was demonized, and now we talk about the benefits of fats. Second, marketing plays a huge role. Manufacturers benefit from creating new superfoods, or scaring us about fats one day, then carbs the next, just to sell their fat-free or low-carb alternatives. And third, it's the telephone game effect. Someone hears something, misunderstands it, repeats it, and suddenly a new myth is making its way around the internet. The result? A jumbled mess of conflicting advice, leaving us unsure who or what to believe. Our goal today is to separate fact from fiction, based on modern scientific data, and bring common sense back to your plate. Let's start this journey to the truth. So let's dive into our first and perhaps sweetest myth, that brown sugar is healthier than white. We often spot it in coffee shops, buy it from health food aisles, and feel a little better when we sprinkle it into our tea. Its natural caramel colour seems to whisper promises of goodness. But let's be honest, brown sugar is essentially the exact same refined white sugar, just with a touch of molasses added back in. It's this molasses that gives it its distinctive colour and a subtle flavour. Now, it's true that molasses contains minuscule amounts of minerals, like calcium, potassium, and iron. However, these quantities are so negligible that you'd have to consume an enormous amount of sugar to gain any noticeable benefit. And frankly, the harm from that much sucrose would far outweigh any potential good. For our bodies, both white and brown sugar are virtually identical. They're simple carbohydrates that trigger a rapid spike in blood glucose. So don't be fooled by the colour. If your goal is to reduce negative health effects, the focus should be on cutting down the overall quantity of sugar you consume, not just switching its shade. All right, we've covered sugar. But what about fat? For decades, we've been told that low-fat products are the key to a lean body and a healthy heart. Supermarket shelves are packed with low-fat milk, yogurts, and cottage cheese. But here's the big trap. When fat is removed from a product, it loses its flavour and texture. It becomes watery and bland. So what do manufacturers do? They add something to restore that missing flavour. And most often, that something is sugar, starches, thickeners, and artificial flavourings. Consequently, when you buy a low-fat fruit yogurt, you might be consuming more sugar than in a regular scoop of ice cream. You're avoiding fats, which are essential for our bodies to absorb vitamins and produce hormones, and instead you're getting a massive dose of fast-acting carbohydrates. This leads to insulin spikes, and paradoxically, to weight gain. So, always read the ingredients list. Often, a full-fat product with no added sugar will be far healthier than its diet or low-fat counterpart. Drink 8 glasses of water a day. It's a mantra we hear constantly, from fitness coaches to glossy magazines. It often feels like the ultimate universal health prescription. But the truth is, this strict 8 glasses, or roughly 2 litres, is largely a myth. Your individual water needs are far more nuanced. They depend on your weight, age, activity level, the climate you live in, and even your diet. Someone working in a cool office will need significantly less water than an athlete training intensely in hot weather. What's more, we often forget that water doesn't just come from a bottle. It's present in soups, vegetables, fruits, tea, and even coffee. A watermelon or a cucumber, for example, are almost entirely water. Our body is an incredibly intelligent system, and it has a perfect built-in indicator: thirst. The best advice is simply to drink when you feel thirsty. There's no need to force yourself to gulp down litres of water if you don't feel like it. Listen to your body. It will tell you exactly when it needs hydration. The undisputed breakfast villain of the 90s, eggs. For years, we were warned that eggs would spike our cholesterol and lead to heart problems. People were advised to limit intake to just 2 or 3 eggs weekly, and even toss the yolk entirely. Fortunately, modern science has completely vindicated this amazing food. Researchers have found that the cholesterol we get from food has only a minimal effect on our blood cholesterol levels. Our bodies, mainly the liver, produce most of the cholesterol we need. When we consume it through food, our internal production simply adjusts and decreases. Instead, bad cholesterol levels are much more strongly affected by trans fats and excess sugar in our diet, not by eggs. And the egg yolk itself, it's a true powerhouse of nutrients, vitamins A, D, E, choline, which is vital for brain health, and a wealth of antioxidants. So go ahead and confidently bring eggs back to your breakfast table. They're one of the most nutritious and balanced choices you can make. Want to lose weight? Cut out carbs. This pervasive myth has fueled an entire industry of low-carb and keto diets. Bread, pasta, potatoes and grains were all demonized as enemies of a trim waistline. But this couldn't be further from the truth. It's a dangerous and harmful misconception. Demonizing an entire macronutrient group is fundamentally misguided. Carbohydrates are our body's primary energy source, and especially crucial for brain function. The real issue isn't carbs themselves, but rather their quality and how much we consume. Yes, simple carbohydrates found in white flour products, sweets, and sugary drinks certainly contribute to weight gain. They're quickly digested, causing rapid blood sugar spikes. But complex carbohydrates, found in whole grains, vegetables, and legumes, are our allies. They're slowly digested, providing sustained energy, long-lasting fullness, and a wealth of fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Completely eliminating carbs can lead to fatigue, difficulty concentrating, and even intense cravings or diet crashes. The key to success isn't elimination, but choosing the right carbs and practicing moderation. We often assume that fresh is always best. We browse the market, carefully selecting the most appealing fruits and vegetables, convinced they offer the most nutrients. Meanwhile, frozen foods are often viewed with disdain, sometimes even dismissed as dead or inferior. However, this isn't always the case. In fact, frozen fruits and vegetables can sometimes be even more beneficial than their fresh counterparts. Why? Consider the journey of a typical fresh tomato to your plate. It's often picked before it's fully ripe, then endures a long trip to a warehouse, followed by days or weeks sitting on a grocery store shelf. Throughout this extended process, exposed to light and air, it gradually loses a significant portion of its vitamins, especially vitamin C. Now let's look at frozen produce. Fruits and vegetables intended for freezing are typically harvested at their absolute peak of ripeness when their nutrient content is at its highest. They then undergo a rapid flash freezing process. This quick freezing locks in nearly all of their vitamins and minerals, preserving their nutritional value effectively. Of course, a vegetable picked moments ago from your own garden remains the ultimate gold standard for nutrition. But when faced with the choice between fresh produce that has travelled a long distance and high-quality frozen options, the frozen choice often proves to be the more nutritious one. Detox juices, smoothies, special teas, and various diets. They promise to rid our bodies of toxins and waste, cleanse us from the inside out, and leave us feeling light and refreshed. While that sounds incredibly appealing, it's unfortunately one of the biggest myths in the health and wellness industry. The truth is, our bodies don't need expensive drinks or elaborate programs to cleanse themselves. We already possess a perfectly sophisticated and incredibly powerful detoxification system that works tirelessly 24/7. This sophisticated system includes our liver, kidneys, lungs, skin, and intestines. The liver, for instance, acts as the body's primary filter, neutralizing harmful substances. The kidneys efficiently remove waste products and excess water through urine, and our lungs expertly expel carbon dioxide. Crucially, the terms toxins and waste products, as marketed by detox sellers, simply don't have a recognized scientific or medical meaning. So, the best way to genuinely support your body's natural detoxification system isn't through expensive juice cleansers. It's surprisingly simple. Drink plenty of water, eat more whole foods, especially vegetables and fiber, and reduce your intake of alcohol and highly processed foods to lighten the load on your liver. Everything else, that's simply clever marketing. The microwave oven, a kitchen appliance that sparks passionate debate. For some, it's an absolute lifesaver. For others, it's a nefarious device that irradiates food and zaps away all its goodness. Let's set the record straight. The widespread myth that microwaves make food radioactive or carcinogenic is completely unfounded. Microwaves are a form of non-ionizing radiation, just like radio waves or visible light. They simply cannot alter the genetic or molecular structure of your food. Instead, they work by making water molecules within the food vibrate rapidly, generating heat and cooking the item. But what about nutrients? It's true that any form of heat processing, whether it's boiling, frying, or baking, can lead to some destruction of vitamins, particularly water-soluble ones like vitamin C and B-complex vitamins. However, this is where the microwave often shines, because microwave cooking is incredibly fast and typically requires minimal water. The loss of vitamins can actually be less than with traditional, longer cooking methods. So, far from being a villain, the microwave is a safe, efficient, and surprisingly gentle way to cook and reheat your meals. Don't eat after 6 p.m. It's practically a golden rule for anyone trying to lose weight. But your body doesn't operate on a strict timetable, and it certainly doesn't shut down your metabolism precisely at 6 p.m. This myth stems from a simple premise. We're less active in the evenings, so anything we eat will supposedly turn straight into fat. However, when it comes to weight management, it's not. When you eat, that counts, but your overall daily calorie intake and the balance of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. If you've maintained a calorie deficit throughout the day, a light dinner at 8 or even 9 p.m. won't sabotage your weight loss efforts. What's more, going to bed feeling ravenously hungry is actually detrimental. It can lead to poor sleep quality and waking up throughout the night. And by morning, you're likely to wake up with a wolfish appetite, leading you to eat far more than you intended. The real takeaway is not when you eat, but what and how much. A light, protein and fibre-rich dinner 2 to 3 hours before bed is perfectly normal and can even be beneficial for quality rest and recovery. You might think it's simple. Skip breakfast, eat fewer calories, and shed those pounds. However, in reality, this strategy often backfires. Giving up your morning meal isn't the most effective approach for weight management. Firstly, after an overnight fast, your blood sugar levels are already low. By skipping breakfast, you prolong this state, which can lead to fatigue, irritability, and difficulty concentrating. Secondly, hunger doesn't simply disappear. It just builds up. By lunchtime, you'll be so ravenous that you're highly likely to opt for higher calorie, fatty or sugary foods and eat a much larger portion than you should. Studies show that people who regularly eat breakfast generally maintain a healthier weight and are less prone to overeating later in the day. A balanced breakfast, including protein, complex carbohydrates and healthy fats, kickstarts your metabolism, provides sustained energy, and helps control your appetite. So, it's definitely not something to skip. In the quest for healthier eating, many people swap white sugar for natural alternatives like honey, maple syrup, agave syrup, or coconut sugar. These are often perceived as healthier because they come from nature. However, for our bodies, the difference isn't as significant as we might think. While honey and maple syrup do contain trace amounts of antioxidants and minerals, their primary component remains the same simple sugars, glucose and fructose. Agave syrup, once a highly popular choice, can contain up to 90% fructose. In large quantities, fructose can overload the liver and contribute to the accumulation of visceral fat. Any of these sweeteners will still raise your blood sugar levels and are high in calories, just like regular sugar. Substituting them for regular sugar is essentially self-deception. You can enjoy them in very moderate quantities for their flavour, but believing them to be a health food is a significant misconception. The key, as always, is moderation. The gluten-free diet has become incredibly trendy. Gluten-free products are often promoted as healthier or more weight loss friendly. Many people cut out gluten without truly understanding what it is, simply hoping to lose weight or improve their well-being. But let's clarify. Gluten is a protein found in wheat, rye, and barley. For the vast majority of people, it's completely harmless. You should only exclude it from your diet if you have a medical reason. These include celiac disease, a serious autoimmune condition, or a doctor-confirmed non-celiac gluten sensitivity. For everyone else, eliminating gluten offers no real benefit and could even be detrimental. Gluten-containing whole grains are crucial sources of fiber, B vitamins, and iron. Paradoxically, many ready-made gluten-free products often compensate for taste and texture with more sugar, fat, and refined starches, making them less nutritious overall. So, unless you have a medical diagnosis, there's no need to fear gluten. Pink Himalayan, black, grey sea salt. Our grocery store shelves are now overflowing with these trendy, pricier alternatives to regular table salt, all marketed as healthier. We're often told they contain dozens of unique minerals. Sounds impressive, right? But honestly, it's mostly just clever marketing. The truth is, no matter its colour or exotic origin, any salt, and we mean any salt, is 97 to 99% composed of the exact same substance, sodium chloride. And it's an excess of this very compound that's detrimental to our health, potentially leading to high blood pressure and heart issues. Yes, sea salt and Himalayan varieties do contain microscopic traces of other minerals like magnesium, potassium, and calcium. However, their presence is so minuscule, it has absolutely no measurable impact on your health. To gain any actual benefit from these trace minerals, you'd literally have to consume deadly amounts of salt. So save your money. There's no need to overpay for a fancy label or a pretty package. The bottom line for all salt, regardless of its type or origin, is to consume it sparingly. Ideally, no more than 5 grams per day, as recommended by the WHO. For many of us, the organic label on a product has become synonymous with healthy. We readily pay more for organic fruits, vegetables, grains, and meat, convinced they offer superior nutrition and safety. But is that really the truth? The organic certification means a product has been grown without synthetic pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. This approach is undeniably beneficial for the environment. However, when we look at nutritional value, the differences are often minimal, if they exist at all. Numerous studies have compared organic and conventionally grown foods and consistently found no significant distinctions in their vitamin or mineral content. Regarding pesticides, residual levels in conventional produce are strictly regulated and kept well within safe limits for human consumption. What's more, organic farming isn't entirely pesticide-free either. They use naturally derived pesticides, and it's important to remember that not all natural substances are harmless. So ultimately, choosing organic produce is often more a matter of personal values and environmental consciousness, rather than a guaranteed path to superior nutritional benefits. The popular and appealing myth that a glass of red wine is good for your heart is incredibly persistent. It stems from studies on resveratrol, an antioxidant found in grape skins, which is often credited with almost miraculous health properties. However, to consume a truly therapeutic dose of resveratrol, you'd need to drink not just one glass, but several bottles of wine daily. an amount that would obviously cause immense harm. Modern scientific evidence clearly indicates that there is no safe amount of alcohol consumption. Any quantity of ethanol is a toxin to our bodies, particularly damaging the liver and brain. Even moderate drinking can increase your risk of cancer, high blood pressure, and a host of other health problems. Any small potential benefit from the antioxidants in wine is completely overshadowed by the harm caused by the alcohol itself. For genuine heart health benefits, opt for a handful of dark berries or grapes and regular exercise instead. These methods are considerably more effective and, most importantly, safer. Where do you get your protein? It's the inevitable first question anyone hears when they decide to reduce their meat consumption. There's a deeply ingrained myth that complete protein can only be obtained from animal sources. But the truth is, the plant kingdom is incredibly rich in protein. Legumes like lentils, chickpeas, beans, and peas are excellent sources of plant-based protein. Soy-based foods such as tofu, tempeh, and edamame contain all essential amino acids. And don't forget nuts, seeds, quinoa, and buckwheat, all packed with protein. The key for those on a plant-based diet is variety. By combining different plant protein sources throughout the day, for example, pairing legumes with grains, you can easily obtain a full spectrum of essential amino acids your body needs. What's more, a protein-rich plant-based diet also provides an abundance of fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants, which are often lacking in meat-heavy diets. So living a healthy, strong life without meat is absolutely achievable. For millions, a morning cup of coffee isn't just a drink, it's a cherished ritual. But with that welcome jolt of energy, often comes a common concern. Does coffee actually lead to dehydration? This myth stems from the fact that caffeine does have a mild diuretic effect, meaning it might make you need to use the restroom a bit more frequently. However, numerous studies have consistently shown that this effect is remarkably weak and primarily observed in individuals who aren't regular coffee drinkers. If you're accustomed to your daily 1 or 2 cups, your body quickly adapts, and the diuretic impact essentially disappears. What's more, let's not forget that coffee itself is about 98% water. The fluid you gain from the beverage more than offsets any minimal fluid loss caffeine might potentially cause. Therefore, your morning cup of coffee can absolutely count towards your overall daily fluid intake. While it's certainly not a substitute for plain water, there's no need to fear dehydration from your daily brew. It seems like such a logical conclusion. Eat fat. Get fat. This simple idea became the cornerstone of an entire era of low-fat diets. But our bodies are far more complex than that. In reality, the main culprit behind weight gain isn't fats at all, but an excess of calories, particularly from simple carbohydrates and sugars. When we consume a lot of sugary and refined starchy foods, our bodies receive a huge influx of quick energy. Anything it can't immediately use, it converts and stores as fat. However, healthy fats, those found in avocados, nuts, olive oil, and fatty fish, are actually essential for our health. They play a crucial role in building cell membranes, producing hormones, and absorbing fat-soluble vitamins. Furthermore, fats provide a sustained feeling of fullness, which helps control appetite and prevent overeating. So the real concern shouldn't be fats themselves, but rather their poor quality, like trans fats, and an overall caloric surplus in our diet. Smoothies are often touted as the epitome of a healthy lifestyle. What could be healthier than a glass packed with blended fruits and vegetables? However, even this seemingly healthy choice has its downsides. A smoothie can be either incredibly beneficial or a genuine sugar bomb. It all boils down to its ingredients. If you blend several sweet fruits like banana, mango, and grapes, and then add honey or syrup, you're essentially consuming a massive dose of fructose. Unlike whole fruits, where natural sugars are slowly released due to their fiber content, in a smoothie, they're in a liquid, easily accessible form. This can lead to a rapid blood sugar spike, much like what happens after drinking a sugary soda. Furthermore, a single smoothie can easily pack in the equivalent of 3 to 4 fruits, far more than you'd likely consume in one sitting if they were whole. This often results in an excessive calorie intake. For a smoothie to be truly beneficial, its base should be unsweetened. Opt for vegetables, leafy greens, avocado, or plain low-fat yogurt. Fruits and berries should then be added sparingly, primarily for a hint of flavour. For decades, margarine was marketed as a healthier alternative to butter. It was made from vegetable oils and thus was free of cholesterol, a dietary concern widely feared at the time. However, to transform these liquid vegetable oils into a solid product, a process called hydrogenation was employed. This process created trans fats, artificially modified fat molecules that were later discovered to be highly detrimental to health. Trans fats elevate bad LDL cholesterol levels while simultaneously decreasing good HDL cholesterol, contribute to systemic inflammation throughout the body, and significantly increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. Today, many manufacturers have reformulated their products and now offer trans fat-free margarine options, yet it still remains a highly processed product with a long list of ingredients. Natural whole butter, when consumed in moderation, is a far more natural and easily metabolized food for our bodies. The key, as with anything, is moderation. So, as you've seen, the world of nutrition is riddled with myths, often crafted by marketers, not by scientists. We fear healthy fats and eggs, yet mindlessly consume sugary smoothies. We overpay for organic food and healthy brown sugar, without realizing it's often just clever marketing. The main takeaway today is this: there are no magic foods or absolute bans that will instantly make you healthy. True health is about balance, variety, and a mindful approach. Read labels, analyze information, and most importantly, listen to your body. Don't fall for sensational headlines and promises of instant results. Real self-care isn't about following trendy diets, but about building a healthy and sustainable relationship with food. Thank you for watching this video to the very end. If you found this valuable, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future myth-busting content. And now, a question for you. Which myth from our list surprised you the most? Or did we miss anything important? Let us know in the comments below. Let's discuss.